asking if you could. I'd like to call to order the Monday, March 11th special city council meeting. If we'd rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Okay, today we are joined online by Andrew, Councilor LaFrenz, Councilor Holmes, and soon, hopefully, Councilor Santiago. And in person, Council President Miller and Councilor Jacobs. Tonight on our agenda, I'm looking for a motion to accept the agenda. Motion by Council President Miller to accept the agenda as written. Any seconds? Second by Councilor Jacobs. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anybody sign up for public comment tonight? This is the part where you would be able to speak, but nobody has signed up, so we'll move along. The reason we're here tonight, review and selection of city manager search firm. Interim city manager Larry Lehman, if you'd like to take it from here.
Yes, we're able to get in 6 responses, which is pretty good. Pretty pleased with that. By and large, all of these companies can do the job, right? I don't think there's any really negative about them. Look at the prices, quite a difference in prices. The reason I'm recommending GMP, you got Prothman and Prothman. Had a divorce, and one of them kept the name Prothman, the other one went by his first name. I'm recommending Greg. They're the same price, which is kind of a coincidence, I think. I did call I called Cottage Grove. I talked to them today. I also called Canby and talked to them. They were pleased with the process. Rothman was the one that was involved back in 2014. And what I liked about them, they were the headhunters, and they failed. They did not select anyone. Then another gentleman came in, and then I came in as the interim. And that's when I worked with them, and they went out and so forth. And that's when Mike Sykes come in. What was nice, they stood behind their guarantee. So they didn't charge us that second time to do that. Now, they're offering the same thing this time, and a little bit better. Well, I'm just really saying better. They're not only saying we'll select someone, get someone you want, but that guarantee is good for 12 months. So if they get here and they leave in the first 12 months, then they'll do it again at no additional cost. I said there may be some expenses involved, but relatively minor things that they would charge you for it. You can see that most of them offered that. And so looking at them, I think I'm recommending a GMP, mainly because they're familiar with the city. They've been around. And I think they can get on the ground running pretty fast.
Question I have then, I mean, most of them have, their expenses are all similar, what's considered an expense. You feel comfortable with where they're located, the ability to be here when enough times and get involved with our community as needed? I mean, they've done it before. They've obviously worked with a lot of cities in the local area.
Correct. No, they've done a lot of work in this area around the state, around the metro area. I think they can as well as anyone get on a local level.
You think they do everything that you would want them to do, from getting information together, going out and searching, also doing the pre-interviews and doing all that themselves? I mean, did they all pretty much offer that option? Some seem to offer lower level, or maybe we did more work and they maybe went out and found us applicants, but we did some more work.
They all use, I think, basically the same systems in order to recruit people. So what is sort of nice is Mike Sykes and I both know these people. We know, not that make a whole lot of difference, but we're developing at least some names and stuff to give them to say, hey, let those people know, maybe talk to them and so forth. So trying to drum up interest in the position. And so we'll be passing that on. We do that to anyone. I'm not just saying that, just for Prothman here, but we're going to really push them hard to get a good slate of candidates.
Counselor Jacobs.
Okay, so a couple questions. So in going through the proposals, and forgive me if you already addressed it and I just didn't catch it. So what is the difference between GMP and Prothman?
One's his wife and one's him.
Okay,
Proposals, I thought it very similar.
okay, right. So I guess so they're married and they both have
They
the
are.
same company.
They aren't married anymore.
They're not married anymore?
Correct.
Two separate companies.
They're two separate companies.
He kept she kept
Prothman, and then he started GMP.
Right.
Okay, that was one question. Wanted to understand that. There's one in looking at the proposal. So as it relates to all of these agencies, the one that I have familiarity with from my professional experience is Baker Tilly. Baker Tilly, one thing that they offered that I thought was of interest and also value to us in this process is the fact that they do a DISC assessment. And this is something that Counselor Santiago and I had a moment to connect on. What do you think the ability is for GMP to do a DISC assessment as well on the candidates?
Marissa, would you mind explaining what that is, just for the record? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all good.
I need to know. Is it dibs? Discs.
Page 44.
This one.
And I
24, Jeanette says.
44.
44. Red 44.
Thanks. Okay, so the DISC assessment that's on page 44. So it gives a visual comparison of the position and the applicant for each of the behavioral factors that are identified. So it helps us to have like a visual understanding of what their competencies are as it relates to, are they good as a persuader, or they conduct, or they implementer, or they analyze, or are they coordinator, supporter, like different competencies in how you get a job done. And so this can be like a good tool for us in evaluating applicants and understanding the personalities and desired working environment for those that they lead.
Did GMP have anything in their file that shows how when they interview, do they come back with any kind of grading?
Yeah, so this is like a personality aptitude test that they could probably, I know that they have those online as like a standalone separate type thing for different jobs. So I'm wondering if they could if they don't typically offer that, I'm wondering if that's something that they could incorporate, to your point.
Like, is it something, because it could be beneficial for us in understanding, like, if we have to make accommodations of understanding how they would need to be able to be successful at leading various team leaders here.
Good question.
I'm just
No, that's,
curious if that's something that personality assessment is something that we could include, or if they would be open to.
I'm sure when they come to us and ask us what we're individually, what we're looking for, they're gonna kind of come up with maybe these words or maybe something similar that we're looking for. And then when they go through those processes, they can, if we said we need a promoter, they would go through and maybe as they interview and do questions, they would rank them as a promoter.
Not necessarily. So what this could be good is in terms of utilizing behavioral-based interview questions, once we start interviewing talent, and utilizing this tool to be able to kind of see what they're sharing with us in the interview and how they rate, and help give us a more full picture as to type of individual that they are and how they show up.
Marissa, may I ask a question? So is this the only aspect that you're concerned about between Baker Tilly proposal and the GMP proposal?
It's the one thing that stood out the most that I could see as being a valuable tool for us in this process.
Yeah, I can see that too. So based on the recommendation and the strengths of the GMP proposal minus this one aspect, would we, because time is an issue.
I understand.
So, and I totally appreciate what you're saying though too. So I'm wondering if we have a consensus to move forward with GMP, if we can revisit that as either a separate offering, because I know this type of service is available through other means.
Mhm.
And then of course we can also ask them if they can just incorporate it at a reasonable price also. That would be my only concern, is just, what the price would be, but I don't think these are typically that expensive.
Yeah, I don't think they're that expensive either.
and I can, when if you approve this, I will talk to them and tell them, hey, this is something that you liked, and ask them if they can do that. And we can get an answer for that. My hope is that when I talk to them, whoever it would be, that we can set up the interview or the meeting with the council almost immediately.
Yeah.
And so that within the next week or so, if they can, you'd be able to confront them head on and present that.
Is this something we then use while we're interviewing, determine if the candidate is hitting, or is this something that they would tell
The
us?
supplemental.
It's a test.
Yeah.
It's usually the test where they sit down and they answer a series of questions, and then usually a computer generated.
So when we go to interview, we'll see this on each candidate and we'll see where they qualify, or where they.
It's the interview would be separate from utilizing this. So this would just be a supplement in terms of part of the candidate profile. So once they identify, typically how it works is once they shortlist, this would be part of the candidate profile write-up so that we can see how they rate, how they ranked, in addition to what their background and their skills and competencies are. And then what that would also be able to help us understand is based off what the competencies are that we're looking for here and the work that needs to get done, we can select appropriate interview behavioral based questions to help dig deeper and to really see if they're
We can use as a tool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to say too, is it something, if they don't offer something specifically, is that something?
there's other
we
tests
can
out
do
there.
and-
Yeah.
And put
there's
it into that
something.
right time frame of when, like you said, a short list, and something we could ask. Okay. One thing I was talking to Larry too is if this works, I'd like to see if they have any availability April 6th to be here for our town meeting. whoever we select, and they can get information kind of there. It's a great opportunity with a bunch of people from the community. Or if they can't, at least submit something for us to ask community members some questions. Maybe too soon, or it may not work in their schedule, but
Well, I think it is appropriate for us to try to determine exactly what level of inclusion we're looking for the community in this process, given the fact that we know we have a short, like we have a very much end date for our interim city manager. I think we need to be mindful of our timeline. So when I was going through and looking through all the different proposed timelines, I mean, where we can cut a week off, which is basically in the first 2 cycles, we should. I'm also a huge supporter of if we need to add additional special working sessions, special meetings to expedite this process, it's in our benefit to do so. The question I do have is who is going to be leading this recruitment effort? Will it be you, interim city manager, who will be working directly with the agency?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and only you?
Uh, Mostly. I mean, I'll have Isaac doing some work, but I plan on being the head person on this because I want to push it through.
Okay,
I want to keep them on task.
right,
So I'm going to make this a very high priority.
okay,
Yes. And also the fact that I want to work with some other managers and so forth to feed them information.
okay. And then let's just so I can understand, let's say all proposals come back with like a minimum of 4 months. And you will be gone by the time that we run through that cycle. Who will then take over the day-to-day?
Don't know.
that's what I would like to probably within the next month, start looking at that time frame. Look at how much, decide if talk to them too, see what they think. If we're able to get this done a week or 2 weeks to a month after you would be gone, maybe we look at Dave again. If it's gonna take
Okay.
more time, or do we go out for another interim for a month or 2 or 6 months? Depends on where we are in the process.
So the only thing that I'll add is that Susan is our city council secretary. And is she going to be kept in the loop on this? Because she is our point of contact for council. So what is the feeling about if you do leave, Larry, where I just looking for continuity here? I think that's what Marissa was
Yes, thank
getting
you.
at.
First of all, Susan knows everything. So in the office, it is really nice because we are really, I think, a good pair. And so I'm always discussing things with her and so forth. She'll be up to par on what's happening.
Great.
I think we can, hopefully within the next week or so, we'll have them for us. And that's one thing we would definitely want to discuss is their timeline and so forth. They're given that, but what can we do to speed it up and so forth? So we'll just do the best we can to, at the same time, make sure they do a good job.
Of course, absolutely.
I want to be, sorry.
So Isaac, you have your hand up for a while. Go ahead.
Yeah, just really briefly about the potential continuity after Larry leaves. It would be a really tight timeline to get an interim for a couple weeks, even a month or two. Most people who accept interim positions are looking for a longer duration. And I think that if we get to that point, you should give serious consideration to Dave. He's familiar, he's done the job before. And I think we'd be really hard pressed to find somebody to step in to finish out a process like that. Now, if we're at a point where maybe we didn't find somebody and it's going to be longer than a couple of weeks to a month, then we might want to be looking for another interim, more permanent interim.
Got it.
And that's like Larry had said with originally, they didn't find a candidate before Mike Sykes. So if that was the case, we go through 8 to 10 weeks and we just don't feel comfortable, then yes, okay, we might be looking at another 12-week process or longer, maybe then we cross that bridge when we get to it. But if it is
Correct.
proceeding well and we've got several applicants and we think we're there and it might be only a month, then yeah, I think Dave and Susan, locally, I think we can run this for short term.
I do have one other thing I want to throw out there for council to consider. I don't think it has to be something that we have to figure out right now, but just to put it on the radar. I did notice that in the GMP proposal, the background is only 1 week. So public safety testing is a company based in Linwood, Washington that handles a lot of the pre-employment process from start to finish for public safety positions in Washington State. In fact, they do the majority of agencies in Washington, but they also do backgrounds for city managers and administrators for a lot of the city and county agencies in Washington. And they are extremely thorough. I don't know how much they cost. It probably will be a little costly, but I would propose that council, background is such a big part of finding a good qualified candidate. Especially the skeletons and stuff that seem to sometimes come out. So there is a lot of value in investing in a company that is known to be really thorough and really good at just that piece, the background investigation. So at maybe a later time, we can discuss that further, but I would just ask that council maybe consider that.
You still have a question, Isaac, or was that? Typically, when you do a background check, can you get an answer back within a week if you submit it?
Yeah, it depends what kind of background you want. So if you just want a computer-based, have they ever been convicted of a misdemeanor or felony? Are they a sex offender? That kind of stuff, then yeah, that can be done in a matter of days. But if you want actual investigators to start calling contacts and then doing what's called developed references, where they call people, they say, who do you know that knows both of you? And then they go from there and they do the tree effect. That's where you start to really get the really good details because they're removed. They weren't references that were handpicked and listed by the specific candidate. So they kind of keep going down the tree until they feel confident that they have a really good picture of the candidate and their ethics, their integrity. They ask a lot of design questions that are very telling about those aspects. And you can get a lot of candidates that wash out on those things, but a thorough background can be really valuable.
Can you not ask for their previous background checks from their last job?
Well, their employer would have that and their employer's not going to give that up. They're not going to have access to that.
You want something that's current and up to
Yeah, you
date
get that as well.
because things change.
Yeah.
I do have one other question, just for a point of clarity with respect to GMP. I noticed in the cover letter, they stated that they hired previous city manager Mike Sykes. So just so I'm clear, my understanding is that Sykes was actually not located through a staffing agency, that Sykes was located through herself and a former city councilor. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
They may have done a background check or they jumped
Correct.
in at that spot maybe.
And we submitted, and then we definitely got Mike to submit the application and so
Sure.
forth. But, Joel and I really, we want, because they did fail before.
Mhm.
We thought, then Mike had a lot of good experience and lived here. We thought, man, he's the perfect candidate.
So just knowing that,
Yes.
I'm just questioning, like, do we feel confident that GMP is going to be able to deliver for us, given, I just find it a little concerning that they claim I get they took credit for it because they ran them through the process, but they actually didn't recruit. They didn't source them and they didn't recruit them.
That is correct. That's correct.
And so I'm assuming,
Mr. Mayor?
yes, go ahead, Isaac.
Just briefly on that point, I just want to point out that it's very challenging to find city managers and executive positions. This is not unique to us or Greg, and it's not a dig at him or any particular company, but finding the right fit can be very challenging. And so personally, I don't think that I could come and say I have any confidence in any firm to get a recruitment on the first round just because of the fit is so important, as you've acknowledged, and the challenge of finding qualified candidates who also fit with what a particular council is looking for. And so I think that no matter what firm we went with, I think it would be really hard to say, yes, this firm will get a hire. I think Larry's right that all these firms do kind of offer the same services. They use the same systems and recruiting tools. And so they're very much apples to apples for the most part. And so I just wanted to just note that, any firm is going to come with the same challenges because it's a contextual challenge about the particular job and profession of city management. So I think that doesn't necessarily change one firm to the other.
Yeah, when we look at their experience, conducted searches in Oregon, we don't know if they finished it or if they were able to find enough applicants and hired one. They were just searches that they've done in the area. But you can do research on that, I'm sure.
And one of his, one of the lead people he mentioned was Richard Myers. He was in Cottage Grove for a long, long time. Richard's got a lot of experience as city manager and so forth. And I think he'll be an asset. And he'll know quite a few people in the profession, hopefully to help lead that. So when I saw his name there, that helped.
26 years as city manager. I do feel comfortable, like Isaac said, that, they're going to do, whoever we pick will do a real good job. And it's up to us. If we don't feel real comfortable with the candidates at the time, that we don't rush it, that we do, you'll look at maybe changing something and doing it again. It could take that extra time, but let's hope not.
Larry, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Larry, can I just clarify here on your council action and status report document here, the columns here? So the guarantee column is that if we don't like any of their first round candidates, then they will do second round?
Correct.
Okay. And then the duration guarantee column, that is that they're guaranteeing that the candidate will stay for that long, for example, 24 months or 12 months?
Yes.
And if they don't stay, do they just refund the money or do they offer you another?
Yeah, they'll do another. I would, I like, the comments are really good. If this is approved, I will talk to them about the comparison and analysis on somewhat of the backgrounds. Then we'll also ask them about could they do the April 6th? Because I think it'd be nice if they should be able to. They ought to be able to send a person up to do that. And also then can we in the next week or so have them come and meet the council and start discussing job descriptions, brochures, so forth.
Can we go back to, Marissa, can I talk to you really quick about one of the comments that you made? I wasn't quite sure what you meant. So we're still thinking that we are going to do a public meet and greet, correct? Or, we're on a tight timeline, but for me, I feel that public participation is really important, that we do at least one session.
With the finalists type of thing?
Yeah, it can be that makes sense to me.
I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. Please, Larry, because Larry and I spoke about this.
I would absolutely agree with you. And I've seen it done many different ways. The kind I kind of liked was kind of have a large area and have a big reception and then invite the public in. And I mean the whole public, but at the same time, you'd individually invite your leaders, school superintendents, other people that the person will be working with. Invite them in. And then a good idea is to make it a cocktail hour and observe them. Doesn't hurt. And then let the public meet them. Then, but like say the night before you do your interviews or something like that.
Yeah, and schedule them. We did something similar last time and we did them on a really tight timeline because those that were from perhaps out of the area could make one trip. And so I think that would be advisable that we would do the meet and greet. But I do seem to think that it would be practical to narrow it and then do just one and then the other appointed and elected officials that we would like to come out or who want to come out and meet the candidates can do that, of course, along with the public all in one. I don't think we necessarily need to do two different sessions.
When I mentioned the reception, because I attended one of these where one of the candidates over imbibed. And it was really kind of fun to see him.
That's interesting.
Go ahead, Kim. Counselor Holmes? Oh,
Yeah, no, I just want to echo, I think the value of having the interaction with the three candidates the last time. I think it was over a Zoom format for the residents of Scappoose. And it was nice because they put the candidate and then divided the group into breakout rooms. And so everyone kind of got a small group opportunity with each of the candidates. And the dynamic it was very interesting to observe. And then we did, the more full like citizen review panel. And I think there was like a elected and law enforcement review panel. I don't know if we need to go to that extent, but I really did like the opportunity to kind of see them in their potential new environment with the residents. So I would definitely want to do that.
Thank you.
So if I can just piggyback on what Counselor Holmes said. So I think it is important for the community to intermingle with the finalists. I'm not necessarily convinced doing interview panels like we did with the community last time I think that should be something up for discussion. I think something more along the lines of just the intermingling and us observing. So do more of a public setting. I think that's something we should discuss.
Thank you. Isaac?
May I? Yeah,
Yes.
so I actually want to second that. We've been talking a little bit internally too about who's appropriate to interview and score things. And I think that Counselor Jacobs is absolutely correct that you need to really due diligent thought to who you want to be interviewing and who might be on panels. At the end of the day, this is your hire. And again, as we know, being a city manager is a profession. It's a particular skill set, and not that the community is not important and not that they don't have input to give, but sometimes, the understanding between what the community wants or thinks is the reality versus what a city manager needs to be able to do to perform to your standards is different. And the second thing I wanted to mention briefly is that in terms of the second round of hiring, so in all of the proposals, they basically are guaranteeing a hire. If you don't get one on the first round, they'll do a second one. When they say they'll do it for no additional cost, that specifically means the fee, not any kind of expenses. So on a second round, you won't be paying the overhead fee, but if there are expenses in terms of people flying in and out, needing to do background checks, needing to make advertisements and postings, we will still need to pay that. So I just want to be very clear that the majority of the costs we will not be duplicating, but any kind of expenses for the process we will need to pay for if we go to a second round of a search.
Thanks. So typically that would be like, if you had 3 finalists, you'd bring them in right around their final interview and have a meet and greet, and maybe the next day you have the interviews. I mean, so it's all at one time type of
That's what I suggest.
hopefully mid to late June, but if not, and do you do the interviews in an open session, like in a normal council meeting,
No.
or if it doesn't work out, a special meeting? Or the
No,
interviews closed door?
Interviews are closed door. You want them to be able to answer, just like we did last time. They were closed door. Any kind of decision making or debate among council would need to be in a public session, but the interviews will be closed door.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve, and if there's any caveats with it, like approval, but we'd like to learn about opportunities for a DISC program or any questions when you want Larry to ask when he does offer them the job, any questions or anything else we want from them?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Counselor Jacobs.
Move that council select GMP for recruitment services and to also have City Manager Larry Lehman inquire about behavioral-based testing that they're able to offer, if any, as well as getting an understanding of what their of a more detailed background check process could look like.
Have a motion, Counselor Jacobs, to accept, select GMP search firm for the search of our next city manager, with the addition of inquiring about behavioral based testing and asking to understand the background check process a little further. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Council President Miller. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, if you guys have any other questions for interim city manager Lehman, please feel free to ask them, but you guys have anything else before we close up? Counselor Holmes or Counselor Santiago?
Not from me.
Okay,
I would like to add, we looked at the schedule for next week. If they can, we may try to have them come, maybe at the next council meeting, but maybe start at like a 6:30 one maybe.
We need a work session?
Well, yeah, I don't know, I don't know the difference. I
do
mean,
we have a work session scheduled? Since we didn't have one last week, I think we do. And that would take about an hour. Yeah, I mean, it's a 50-year plan thing, so it could take most of the time. If they can come, we can make it an agenda item. Since we are pushing the other item, I think, into April. I don't remember how much is on that June 18th agenda. But also if March, June,
You ready for some?
70 this weekend. But we'll also, if a couple of us, not four, but if a couple of us, if they're around during the day, we'd be happy to meet with them too and talk to them. If they are able to come but during the day. But I'd like to see them come to our meeting if possible.
Be mindful of expenditures with them. They charge us
Yeah.
for showing up.
I thought were pretty clear that they did not on mileage.
I don't know what the mile, $65 an mile, $1 an
They're
hour.
coming from, looks like Snoqualmie.
Depends on where Richard comes from. I mean, he could be in Cottage Grove. Okay, so going forward though, real quick, we need to visit job description. We discussed that at the next meeting and kind of, or during, and come up with something that we're good about. And then before we give that to them, I mean, they need to see a job description.
Part of
Probably
what
proceed.
they do is assist with that.
Oh, yeah.
They can assist with that as well. It's, you know, either way, I think you'll need to vote on any job description you approve.
And I can send them what we have, what the council members have produced. I can send them those comments for them to begin to develop that.
Okay.
So I can send, they can have some advance warning or some advance notice on that.
Well, specifically, if I may really quick, it says on that topic says develop, review and approve a detailed recruitment profile and invitation. We'll create a detailed recruitment profile highlighting the strengths of your job opportunity. If requested, we will assist in reviewing the position compensation and will make recommendations that are consistent with comparable agencies and the market. Examples of prior recruitment profiles are included in this proposal and typically feature the following, and there's 8 different bullet points.
And in worst case, I mean, they could join our meeting via Zoom for that first time. I mean, if they can't
Correct.
quite be here in time, but we really want to get going, they're able to come
Good point.
for 20 minutes on Zoom and ask questions, and over the process, we can do that. Okay, meeting adjourned.